Yo, how's it going everybody? You got Sketch here and welcome back to the channel. On this episode, we're taking a look at an indie shoot 'em up that calls back to the caravan shooters of the 90s while adding in some gameplay twists that bring it into the modern day. Today we're checking out Crystal Breaker, developed and published by Terarin Games, releasing to Steam and the Nintendo Switch in November of 2024. From the moment you boot this up, you're transported back to the days of Star Soldier and Rekka on the NES, and the caravan style of gameplay is easy to learn and fun to master. Though before getting too far ahead, let's check out the story. In space era year 248, the colony defense systems begin to target their own support lines and orbital industrial plants. When the space government that is relying on computer technology becomes powerless to stop the assault, an unknown fighter jet screams onto the scene known as the Crystal Breaker. As pilots Layla and Jenny embark on their mission, they comb the galaxy for the enemy known as Black Thunder. Gameplay wise, you got a 2D vertical shoot 'em up spanning 8 stages, with the final stage being a 10-minute marathon of bosses. You got the option of 2 pilots, Layla and Jenny, Layla having more distance but a weaker shot, while Jenny has shorter range but stronger firepower. You've also got the boost move to move around the stage faster, and once you figure out techniques for dodging, you'll start to link combos into your defenses. As you shoot down enemies and uncover blocks on the board, you'll get power upgrades with up to 4 levels before maxing out. This will increase your firepower and add directional cannons in front and behind you. Once you're maxed out, each subsequent power up you pick up will work as a screen clear for smaller enemies and add quick damage multipliers for bigger enemies. Enemies will drop crystals with most downs, and bigger enemies will drop more crystals the faster you can defeat them. The longer you stay at full power, the game break will increase, with rank 5 being its peak. You'll fend off the swarms of ads until you get to one of several mini bosses as you go through each stage, with the main boss being at the end. Something important to note about the combat here is that green bullets can be shot through, but purple bullets can't and will have to be dodged. Missiles are the same deal, with needing to be dodged to avoid taking damage. Each hit also takes your weapon level and rank down. Each hit point works as a life, and once you're down to 0, the game is over and back to the start menu. There are numerous bonus points to be found on each stage, from finding secret bonuses hidden within certain tiles on the board, to shooting down enemies in a certain formation or within a certain amount of time. Every 2 million points will grant you an extra health point, and chaining kills together on top of the crystal bonuses will have your scores firing off into space. But there is one thing that is an absolute game changer with the combat, being in the game's overlap system. While you can boost away from projectiles and enemies, you can only collide with bullets and missiles while being able to overlap everything else. You can still play the game avoiding everything if you want to, but the game encourages and allows for very aggressive playstyles, where once you figure out how to boost around and overlap enemies, you'll be smoking everything on screen expeditiously. Keep in mind though, while you can still be hit by projectiles when you overlap enemies, but if you can maneuver around those purple bullets, you can honestly be pretty overpowered. Jenny's craft is especially nasty once fully upgraded, and with double damage on top of that, battles can end very quickly once you figure out how to maximize your damage output. There are 3 difficulties from normal to expert, and if normal feels too easy once you figure out strategies, higher settings are available for an additional challenge. Don't think the normal mode is a pushover, however, considering that you can get smoked quickly if you're unlucky. Getting higher scores in that previous run is also an ongoing objective, since once you clear the game, you can replay each stage individually. Graphics wise, Crystal Breaker runs on the Game Maker engine, and this has a few tricks up its sleeve with its retro aesthetic. This is the 3rd game we've looked at recently made on this engine, and it's one that proves that it's more powerful than many people give it credit for. The level designs call back to games like Star Soldier, heavily with its hidden blocks revealing bonus items, to the faces that reveal bonus points. Where it gets interesting is its more 16-bit style effects work. Each stage is wonderfully detailed with layers of parallax scrolling and numerous elements that scale and rotate. The moments where stages rotate beneath you look really cool as you descend into the enemy stronghold and through most of the game as you blast into hyperspace. The first 7 levels go by rather quickly, but the final stage takes about 10 minutes or so, throwing every previous boss at you in succession. Enemies will swarm the screen constantly, gradually throwing in new ones as you move through each stage. You'll also battle several mini bosses on each stage too, but if you recall the overlapping mechanic from earlier, this will make a lot of those encounters short introductions at best. You do get to see a lot of interesting character designs, and these lead into boss fights at the end of each stage. Boss fights are typically huge hybrid spacecraft, where the green bullets can be destroyed and the purple ones can only be dodged. Once again, though, if you can find a comfortable spot to overlap on the boss encounters, these can be cleared and also, at times, within a few seconds, allowing you to rack up massive bonuses in the process. The art style feels a lot like the Hudson developed games on the TurboGrafx 16 and PC Engine like Soldier Blade and Blazing Lasers, and it stays practical with the designs being mostly mechanized warriors and giant craft. The HUD provides all the basics like hit points remaining, power level, score, difficulty, rank, and distance until you get to the boss of that level. The amount of bonus points you can get in this game is honestly pretty wild, and beyond each explosion from a downed enemy, a new bonus notification will flash on screen like hitting a jackpot at a casino. Sound-wise, Crystal Breaker has an awesome soundtrack alongside its in-game audio. Hero Key lays down a soundtrack that stays hype and also varies depending on your power level. If you stay at base level, each stage will have its own unique theme. though once you upgrade your craft, the tunes ramp up in tempo, becoming a trance track with big drums and sine wave synths. The boss tune also slaps with something out of a 90s episodic anime. In-game audio has a fair bit to chew on with some voice sampling, narrating bonuses on screen, and enemies approaching. Gunfire has that PC Engine sound design to it, and explosions have an escalating level of boom from small pops to crushing detonation of the bigger crafts. The heavier enemies do have some feedback like tapping on window panes before the craft is blown to bits. Overall, the sound design is very solid and one of the game's strong suits. Crystal Breaker is a fun take on the caravan shooter genre, and it's neat that you can play it a few different ways, either up close and personal or from a distance. With the overlapping mechanic, it can be argued that it might make the game a bit too easy once you figure out how to use it effectively, but you can also play the game without using it too. This is a game that's easy to learn, and while not the most difficult to master, a lot of fun to figure out in the process. While overall score doesn't stack, individual scores do for each stage, and if you're into leaderboard standings, it'll go by the highest score per stage instead of the overall game. 1 coin runs are very much attainable and will run you about 40 minutes to complete. Crystal Breaker gets a 7.5 out of 10 and comes recommended to fans of vertical shooters with that more PC Engine feel, and caravan shooters since this is heavily modeled on that archetype. While it's not brutally difficult, it is fun, and for $15, it's far from the worst thing I've played. One can argue the difficulty goes down once you really get a hold of the overlapping, but it does give players a noticeable edge once you realize how powerful your crafts can be. It's a solid entry-level shoot 'em up to learn, and can give more experienced players a challenge depending on how you play. This is available on Nintendo Switch and Steam for $15, and if you're into shoot 'em ups, this is worth checking out, and even better if you can catch it on discount. I'll certainly keep an eye out for future releases from Terarin Games, as this was a lot of fun to play. And I thank you again if you made it this far into the video, and if you find these videos helpful, that's awesome. I'm glad you use it as a resource. Check back often, we'll have more reviews and commentaries in the near future. But until then, take it easy and stay safe out there. I'll see you on the next one.